Get the power to do more with Storable payments. More processing, more security, more support when you need it. Storable helps operators do more with the most powerful technology in self-storage. Learn more at storable.com/do-more.
I am Jennifer McKinney, and I am a product marketing manager here at Storable. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today as we discuss the current market conditions, what this could mean for the storage industry, and how to utilize some great marketing tools and techniques to help you grow your business, even in potentially unstable market conditions. So if you have attended any of our previous sessions, we have been reviewing these 4 market forces currently affecting the self-storage industry. We've reviewed the idea of a shift to digital in the industry, where we are seeing more tenants and operators shifting to more digital forms of engagement. We've touched on the supply crunch and how the increase in demand is having an effect on the storage industry. We've talked about growth through M&A and how the cost of new development has been increasing, and actually how these forces are really symptoms of the broader market correction. And the idea of a market correction or a market downturn is actually what we're going to discuss today. So traditionally, the self-storage industry has proven to be quite resilient, even in market downturns. But inflation and the cost of goods and services skyrocketing, customers may decide that paying a significant amount of money each month to store extra items is something they can no longer afford. So in May of this year, Bloomberg announced that the odds of a US recession in the next 12 months are rising, and it's now up to 30%, which is the highest that we have seen since 2020. So understanding how certain areas of the economy can impact your business is important for your success, and it can help you anticipate possible changes. So I'm going to take a minute or two and just review some of these economic factors that operators like yourself should be aware of. And the number one is inflation. Inflation affects the industry in a variety of ways. If inflation continues to rise and operators are forced to raise prices due to the rising cost of supplies and labor, self-storage can easily move from something that was a necessary expense to an optional expense for some people. If you remember back in 2008, inflation did play a role in many people being forced to downsize, and it did create a demand for storage facilities. But I do want to note here that in 2008, we were kind of seeing more of a housing bubble and not just inflation. But that actually brings us to our next point, which is the housing market. Home prices have surged all over the country in the recent years, and that trend is expected to continue. The supply of new inventory is not expected to significantly increase, but the demand for housing does keep increasing. With supply chain issues, labor shortages, decreasing the number of new builds, many first-time homebuyers are being priced out of the market, and rising interest rates. So the demand for rental properties is expected to grow. Now, this particular economic factor isn't necessarily a bad thing for operators. However, with prices increasing on just about everything else, this could reduce the demand for storage. The next is interest rates. And just like interest rates are affecting your tenants, they can also have a big impact on you as operators. With interest rates rising, borrowing money for new development or acquisitions will become more expensive, or it may not be an option at all. This could give the larger operators and investors an upper hand as they continue to consolidate the industry. And another thing to keep in mind is that operators with variable interest rate loans may need to prepare for larger payments in the coming months. And last is the supply crunch. As the cost of funds for new builds and acquisitions increases, this could have an impact on the already high occupancy that we are seeing. So instead of growth through expansion, many operators may be looking to rent increases in order to help supplement that growth. With the price of everything increasing, an increase on rental units may be expected. However, what that increase looks like will be determined by your tenant's threshold. And this can be a tricky predicament to be in. Like we said, price increases everywhere, tenants may view their storage as a non-necessity. So successfully navigating any downturn ahead will require operators to adapt, respond, and use all the tools at their disposal to grow their business. Uncertainty around the economy can be a bit nerve-wracking, and that's partly due to the fact that no two downturns are exactly the same. Regardless of the market conditions, learning to understand the market in which you operate and the customers within that market should be something you all invest some time in doing, and it can be especially helpful in an unsteady market. So I'm going to spend just a few minutes discussing some statistics on self-storage customers to hopefully help you better understand the needs of your tenants. 86% of people travel less than 30 minutes to their storage unit. 32% of people are renting due to downsizing. And this is especially important to note given the current economic climate. And this is followed by moving, not due to downsizing, and then lastly followed by just cleaning out a room in their home for extra space like a garage or a basement. Mobile traffic makes up 84% of the near me searches, meaning they Google something like storage near me. 87% of customers are over the age of 35, and 42% are between the ages of 50 and 65. Now, these are just some very basic generalities about the typical self-storage customer, but there are also ways that you can find out more about the specific tenants renting at your facility. You can ask for a questionnaire or a survey during move in or move out to help you dive a little bit deeper into their needs for storage. And by understanding the reasoning for renting, you can start to create some compelling marketing messaging to attract new tenants like them. This is also a great opportunity to utilize information you already have in your facility management software to help better understand them. Whether it's their distance from your facility using their address, age using their birthday, or average length of stay. All these can be clues into why they are renting from you. And from these basic customer profiles, we can make some pretty solid marketing assumptions that can help shape your marketing strategy. One is location. Customers aren't traveling far and they won't travel far for their self-storage unit. So think local. And along with that, having a community-focused mindset can help you reach your local target customer. After all, if your community is being disproportionately affected by the market downturn, being seen as a business owner trying to help their community can be great for business. And according to these stats, a sudden change in circumstance can significantly increase their need for storage. But understanding purchase behavior during a market turndown is also something to consider. So according to a Harvard Business Review, consumers prioritize their purchases by sorting them into 4 categories. This is regardless of whether they realize they're doing this or not. 1 is essentials, and these are necessary for survival or overall well-being. Treats. These are seen as more like indulgences, but the purchase is still justifiable. Next is postponables. So these are needed or wanted or desired, but could be postponed or reasonably put off for a later time. And the last one is expendables, and these are thought of as unnecessary or unjustifiable. So given the possibility of harder times to come, these categories help us better understand the type of tenants that are and are not going to be renting from you in the coming months during this downturn. Some of your existing tenants who have seen storage as a treat or essential over the past few months might now start seeing it as expendable, causing them to move out. Others who have lost their job or are having to downsize or move may all of a sudden see this as essential, and those are the people you should be targeting. And we will discuss how in just a minute. Right now, I want to take a second just to discuss the type of tenant we know will likely be moving in. So they are likely more price or cost conscious. They could be going through a difficult or unexpected life change or change in circumstance. And they're probably going to be staying with you throughout much of or not the entire market downturn. So it's critical that you address each of these attributes throughout your marketing efforts. But what could that look like? Well, we do have a few ideas to consider, but ultimately each operation and each market is vastly different. You know your tenants best, so we encourage you to get a little creative and adapt. But here are just a few different ways that you could possibly approach this. Your messaging is going to play an important role in letting your prospective tenants know that you are there to support them. Positioning your messaging that you are an ally during tough economic times can help create a sense of brand loyalty, demonstrate empathy, and create an emotional connection. The threat of market changes can naturally induce a level of fear, and people can become hyper-aware or even hypersensitive to certain marketing messages. They can react negatively to messaging that may be downplaying their circumstances, or it appears to be profiting off of a negative change in their life, or attempting to take advantage of their circumstances. So what would this look like? So for example, we know times are tough and we're here to help. For a limited time, we're offering 20% off for the first few months to help those going through a tough transition. Remember the stats on the average tenant? This is a great way to show them that you are here to support them and your local community. In addition to messaging, there are some other tactics that you can deploy, such as leaning heavier into time-bound discounting. If you know that these are the types of tenants that are going to be staying with you for a while, it becomes much safer to offer extended discounts like that 20% off for the first 4 months. Or price guarantees. You know the tenant is going through a transition in their own life. You can preemptively assure them that you are willing to help them through by offering a time-bound price guarantee. So for example, we'll guarantee that our rates won't go up for 12 months. This helps that more cost-conscious tenant budget appropriately and ensure that they are able to use your facility where they may not be earning as much as they normally would. And don't forget about your previous or current tenants. I know we are always thinking about new tenant acquisition, but keeping your current tenants during this time can provide some stability. And with the possibility of a higher than average turnover, using some of the pricing or promotional strategies for your current tenants who may also be experiencing financial hardships can help bolster trust and create a much longer lasting relationship. Now, we understand that this may not make sense to offer proactively to everyone, but having it as like a save tactic for your managers to use can be effective. And it's always good to keep your previous tenants in mind. On average, 41% of self-storage tenants have previously rented a storage unit. So there is a strong likelihood that your previous tenants will need storage again. Periodically checking in with previous tenants is a good way to secure repeat business. And if your community is hit hard by these shifts in the market, there is a good chance that people you already have a relationship with may also have a new need for storage. So now that we've gathered some basics on your customers, reviewed the possible marketing messages, let's talk about the best way to reach them. So the heart of marketing, like we've been discussing today, is really understanding your customers and their needs. And a shifting economy does not change that. In fact, it makes it more important, but it is critical that we are selecting the right marketing channels to reach them effectively. And while a natural reaction for operators in a downturn might be to pull back their marketing spend on channels, we'd recommend that you slightly adjust that thinking. While you might be pulling back in some areas, you should be strategically investing in others. Remember, you have a different type of customer shopping in these conditions. So I'd like to give you an overview of some of the most effective marketing channels in these new conditions. One is having a well-designed website that is optimized for SEO. Now, a few months back during a previous webinar, we focused on the tenants and operators and their shift towards more digital forms of engagement. And I reviewed the importance of a good facility website. So if you attended that session, some of this might look a bit familiar, but if you would like to review that session, you can always see our past webinars at blog.storable.com. But having a well-designed website is important in this digital age and plays an even more critical role in these market conditions. No matter which channels you invest in, they are all very likely to take the customer back here. So when it comes to adjusting your message, acknowledging their situation, and ensuring that your offerings make sense for them, most of that heavy lifting can be done on your website. And another critical part of your website is SEO, or search engine optimization. It is important to think about what type of searches your customers might be using to locate your facility. So maybe it's time to amp up your blog content with topics such as resources to how to store things for an upcoming move, or cost-effective ways to store things. That way, when they're searching for those types of terms, your facility will appear in the organic search results. Another important marketing channel to discuss, excuse me, is Google. Google is the world's most visited website and holds about 92% of all search engine market share. That is huge. So for the online or digital customer journey, it will start on Google. So we know that typically people rent a storage unit close to their area of residence. But what if they don't live in your area yet? We have discussed that moving is the top reason people need storage. But what we haven't discussed is where people are moving to. So over the past few years, and this is partly due to COVID, we saw more and more people leaving major metropolitan areas and moving to the suburbs or more rural or semi-rural communities. And due to the current market conditions, specifically around the cost of housing, the lack of affordable housing, and rising interest rates, we don't expect this trend to slow down. It is not uncommon for word of mouth or signage to be some of the primary marketing vehicles in smaller communities. However, these new types of tenants might not be living in your community just yet, and they will probably be planning the details of their move, whether it be to a new city or even a new state, using Google. So if you are an operator in a suburban or rural market, this is a great time to think about adapting your marketing strategy and tactics to include some more digital forms of marketing. And the good thing is there are a lot of different ways to attract new customers using Google, through Google Search, Google Ads, and Google Maps, all of which are likely to help increase your visibility. So if you don't already have one, I would suggest setting up a Google business profile. This used to be called Google My Business, but it's a free business listing from Google, and it allows you to provide detailed information about your business, like location, services, and reviews. And this is such a great way to increase your visibility. By simply creating this free profile, you can appear in Google Search, Google Shopping, and Google Maps. And obtaining one of those coveted Google Maps search spots can massively increase your visibility in the local searches. Setting up your business profile is relatively easy, and there are a lot of great resources available to help guide you through that process. So now that we've set up our Google business profile, there are a few other Google tools available to you. So just like I mentioned organic traffic, there's also paid traffic. And the most common form of paid search is with Google Ads. This was also previously named Google AdWords. But this includes both Google Search Ads and Google Display Ads. And an effective Google ad campaign can be one of the most important marketing tools for self-storage. And most of your competition is probably already using it. And just like keyword selection was important for SEO and organic search, it is just as important for your paid search channels. So for keywords, you really need to start out by thinking like your customers. What would you type into Google to find your facility? Well, the obvious might be storage or self-storage. However, those are very high traffic keywords, and the competition is huge. So you will likely be competing for space with just about every other storage operator in your area. Instead, think about what you have discovered about your tenants or what they might be searching for, and adjust your messaging and keyword selection accordingly. As we discovered, moving is the #1 reason people need storage. So start there. The more specific you can get in your keyword selection, the more relevant it may be to a user search. And using keyword placement in the ad copy also helps to improve ad relevance and lets your users and customers know that they are in the right place and they have selected an ad that directly relates to their search. The beauty of Google Ads is you can play around with what's working and what's not. So as you begin to gain a deeper understanding of how the market conditions are affecting your specific tenants, you can have some clear insights into what is resonating with your customers and what might be falling flat, with the ability to adjust along the way. Google display ads are another great way to reach your new customers. Display ads actually show up while people are viewing other websites that are a part of this Google display network. You can get really targeted with your display ads. And going back to those statistics that we discussed earlier, we know the most common reason for storage is downsizing or move. So you can choose to display your ads on site for like real estate, moving companies, people searching for student housing, local apartment searches. But again, think about what you know about your tenants and the possible changes in living, financial, or relationship status that they might be experiencing, so that you are only reaching customers that have the ability and desire to become a new tenant. In a 2019 study, 74% of respondents stated they appreciated advertising that was relevant to them. So using the information you know about your tenants can be very, very effective with Google Ads. So both search ads and display ads can easily be turned on or off depending on occupancy. Budget can be adjusted or reallocated to a different site if you are running multiple facilities, and everything is tracked and measured so you can easily keep track of your budget and monitor your return on investment. So what happens to your customers that possibly click on your ad or they engage with you on your website but don't commit? So maybe they requested a quote or they started the reservation or move-in process but didn't end up renting. Well, there is something called remarketing or retargeting, and it helps to specifically address these types of customers. And we've all probably seen it in action. So if you've ever Googled something, landed on somebody's website and possibly requested more information, left that site, and then noticed a bunch of ads related to that search kind of following you around the internet, well, that's remarketing. And with Google Ads, you can select to add remarketing technology. So when a user visits your site, they are added to a remarketing list. So if they leave your site, but visit another website within the ad network, they will see an ad for your business or facility. So it is not uncommon, especially for this new price-conscious shopper, to visit a few sites to review pricing and location before committing, especially if they are moving to a new city or state. By remarketing to these customers, you are essentially reminding them of what they already need or want, and it can be very effective. And for those price-sensitive customers, this is a great time to serve up an ad with a discount or a promotion. The Google Display Network is one of the most popular remarketing platforms, and ROI tends to be high. So this is a very cost-effective and powerful tool when you are looking for ways to maximize your marketing budget during the potential downturn, and also capitalize on customers you know are looking for storage. So a bit earlier in the presentation, I touched on the concept of reviews, and reviews really become your word-of-mouth advertising in a digital world. I think we all probably understand the importance of having a good reputation and providing a great experience, regardless of market conditions. But reviews are especially important for someone who might be experiencing a financial hardship. For some, storage may fall somewhere in between a justifiable purchase and a postponable purchase, and it's possible that positive reviews can help tip the scales. Consumers want to know that others have had a positive experience with your facility. Reviews can help legitimize your business and add credibility, and they serve a great purpose when we are talking about Google. Google reviews play a large role in your rankings in those local search results. But how do you get reviews? There are a few different ways to go about this, but the easiest is just with a simple post-rental email or text, something like a thank you message, and ask them to share their honest feedback with a link to your preferred review platform. So much of what we have been discussing today really circles back to understanding your audience and your target and getting more strategic with how you reach them, as opposed to blasting ads all over the internet in hopes that it reaches someone who might be interested. I know we spent a lot of time discussing web ads and search and Google, so I'm going to transition away from Google and take us into another very strong marketing tool, which is social media. And I'm not talking about posting on Facebook or Instagram. I'm specifically talking about social media and Facebook advertisements. Because whether we like it or not, Facebook collects a lot of data on its users. But if used correctly, you can target very specific groups of people with Facebook advertisements. You can target people based on location, their demographics like age, gender, education, but you can also target your ads based on consumer behavior, such as recent purchases, like a new home or new apartment, or you can even target them based on their interests and hobbies. So something that might require extra storage, like a hobby or an interest in cars or motorcycles. You can get really very specific, but some general ideas to get you started is you can show ads to people who have recently moved or purchased a home, show ads to students, show ads to newlyweds or people over the age of 35 who have recently experienced a change in relationship. This can be another reason people need storage. And the last online or digital marketing tool that I would encourage everyone to look into are storage-specific directories. Here at Storable, we have the Sparefront Marketplace, but there are others and they can give you similar results. Not only do online directories connect operators like you who have available units with tenants looking for available units, but they also help to drive that local SEO for your own website. Being listed on online directories helps search engines validate that your information is correct and prove that you and your website are relevant as a Google search result. So with the uncertainty around the economy, understanding how changing market conditions can affect not only you as operators, but your tenants is going to be critically important if we do experience the market downturn. Taking the time to understand the needs of your current tenants, but also understanding your new tenants and what market conditions could be driving their need for storage can help you navigate through turbulent economic times. Now, I know some of these tactics you may already be familiar with, but I'm hoping that I shed some light on some new marketing tools that you can utilize in conjunction with some basic market research to help adapt your messaging if and when you need to. At the end of the day, regardless of what the economy has in store for us, it is important to keep an eye on our industry, listen to the needs of your customers, and adapt your marketing messaging accordingly. So that just about wraps up today's webinar. But before you leave, I just wanted to give you guys a quick recap of what we are covering in future sessions. So on August 26th, we are going to be hosting a roundtable of savvy operators with a focus on marketing, who will be sharing some examples of marketing shifts they've made in response to the market downturn. So be on the lookout for that. Unfortunately, it looks like we are pretty tight on time. So I do want to be respectful of everyone's Fridays. So if you do have any questions for me and they are in the chat, I will follow up with all of you guys individually. So I want to thank you again so much for joining me today and have a great weekend.
Get the power to do more with Storable payments. More processing, more security, more support when you need it. Storable helps operators do more with the most powerful technology in self-storage. Learn more at storable.com/do more.